The arrival of India of the US President has seen a warm welcome to Donald Trump by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. His arrival was surrounded with all the colour, pomp and circumstances of a typical state visit between the two men. However, there's a shared and common denominator interest between Trump and Modi, and one that has sparked huge controversy in both India and the US, namely immigration and discrimination. Trump, however, was quick to comment that both he and Modi addressed the issue and claimed that both embrace religious freedom. Yet, as we all know, Trump, like Modi, has a clear grudge against certain religions.
So we did talk about religious freedom, and I will say that the Prime Minister was incredible on what he told me. He wants people to have religious freedom, and very strongly, and he said that in India they have worked very hard to have great and open religious freedom. And if you look back and look at what's going on relative to other places especially, but they have really worked hard on religious freedom.
The discrimination comes on the back of Modi's introduction of the Citizenship Amendment Act, or the CAA, which allows Hindus, Sikhs, Christians and a host of other religious minorities access to citizenship in India from neighbouring countries. The list does not account for Muslims. The blatant discrimination against Muslims is clear for all to see.
Of this nation, we are calling for freedom from CAA, we are calling for freedom from NRC. We want everybody in our country to stay because our Muslims, they are also our brothers, we all are equal, we don't have something different in our body, we have born in the same land and we want to grow and stay united.
Many of those protesting the CAA do not differentiate between religions, but identify themselves solely as Indian. Yet it seems that the suppression of those that Modi deems unsightly is more than just Muslims. Prior to Trump's arrival, the slums were walled off on the route taken by Trump to avoid him seeing what poverty India has. It seems that both Trump and Modi are hell-bent in putting more bricks in their walls. It seems the suppression is something that won't be forgotten.
It will continue till the government will not revoke this bill, because this is very necessary, the need of the hour right now. Because if we stop here, then they will continue to suppress us, and we don't want that.
Recent protests against the CAA have sparked more violence between the supporters of the Act and those that oppose the draconian bill. Figures have shown that since the arrival of Trump, over 24 protesters have been killed, with around 200 injured in the clashes that have taken place. Yet in spite of the deadly violence, one must raise a question as to what Modi intends to do about the bill, and where would those affected by it go?
We are just going to remove it. We are just here to remove NRC and CAA. We are not against the government, we are against the law.
The protests have included men, students, Muslims, and those who feel the bill is pure discrimination at its worst. Women have also taken to the streets in numbers in order to make their voices heard.
My message to the Muslim women is that please continue this fight, continue the struggle, continue to assert your identities as Muslim women, continue to reclaim your public spaces.
Yet the violence has continued nonetheless, risking the credible possibility of an escalation in death and injuries due to the protests, which for the world's largest democracy is clearly a label that it does not wish to be tarnished with. The deadly clashes between Muslim and Hindu protesters have now raised calls for the military to be deployed in order to calm the situation, raising speculation that the situation is getting out of hand and seeing the Indian police resources unable to deal with the impact. Yet some protesters have sought a more peaceful way of dealing with the CAA and moved clearly a nod to protests of the past in India, which saw Gandhi lead non-violent protests against the British.
As students, it's our responsibility to preserve the basic principles of the Constitution. Hence, we are